So how did I lose over $7,000 in camera gear with my Aquatech housing? Stay tuned. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And as of today, I think I have 47 subscribers to my channel, which in the grand scheme of things, I know is not a big number, but it's meaningful to me. I only know a handful of people who are subscribing, so to you all, I appreciate the support. This content's gonna be a little different than prior stuff I posted. It's kind of a product review, but also just a personal testimony on my experience, which has not been positive, as you can tell from the title of this video. And I'll get to that in a moment. Just to preface everything is that I've had wanted camera housing for quite some time, and prior to doing any research, just intuitively, I just thought that it would be best if I got the housing that had the bolt and screws. Just for me, it seemed like that'd be the most peace of mind for me, is that once I knew that the screws were tightened down really secure, the odds of the housing leaking would be minimal. But once I got serious about looking for housing, I did a lot of research online, watching YouTube videos, reading articles. I reached out to some people, and through all that, I narrowed it down to either Aquatech housing or a salty housing. And really, my big factor came down to a price. I initially called Salty and asked for a discount for the bundle of stuff I was buying, and he refused to do that. But when I called Aquatech, they were open to that, and they gave me what I considered a pretty good deal for everything that I bought. Maybe this is a lesson in you get what you pay for. What had happened is that, so the first time I lost my camera gear was just a few weeks after I bought the housing. I think it was my fourth time I'd used the housing. And a few friends and I went on the west side of Oahu, and we were gonna go snorkeling to look for a statue underwater. And we didn't really know where it was, and we knew it would probably take some time to find. So I put the camera in the housing, secured everything, put the housing in a backpack, attached the backpack to my surfboard leash, and then paddled out. And for the majority of the time, I was just snorkeling right beside my surfboard. And it took us about 15-20 minutes for us to, it was a Buddha statue, for us to find Buddha. And once we did, I pulled out my housing from the backpack, and about half of it was full of water, and this latch here was just like that, was undone. And I immediately emptied the water, went back to shore and hopped online, and I started reading articles on what to do when your camera gear has been exposed to salt water. A lot of articles just said that your gear is going to be junk, but a few articles said really quickly wash it down with fresh water, then put it in rice, which I did once I got home. And then on the next weekday, I contacted Canon. They advised me to send it into their service department, which I did, and they quickly got back to me and said that, yeah, my gear was toast. So when that happened, I contacted Aquatech, and the person I spoke to, I explained what happened, and he didn't sound like this was a new issue to him. He sounded quite familiar, because when I explained, he said, oh yeah, he's like, you gotta make sure that the latches are really pressed down secure. So based on what he told me in the conversation, I kind of thought, maybe it was my fault, user error, that I wasn't paying attention ashore, that I didn't double check all the latches. I really couldn't remember the whole situation, because with some friends, and I just couldn't recall. But the second time how it leaked was, well, since that first time I replaced all the gear, I was kind of in a paranoid state that every time before I entered the water, I was always checking the latches to make sure that they're secure, because what you got to do is that when you close these things, when you press it down once, you hear that click, and that audibly it sounds like it's secure, but it's not. You have to press down twice and make it secure. So after the first time the housing leaked, I lost my gear. I think I went 4 more times in the water before I lost it the second time, but I was always checking from shore to make sure it's attached, and then once I was in the water, I was always checking, make sure there was no water entering in any way. So the second time when I lost my gear, I went to Sandy's here in Oahu to do a shoreline shooting bodyboarders and a surf break, and pretty big swell that day. But I was out there for about 45 minutes, everything was going fine, housing was completely dry, and then a wave came by and the leash was torn off. And when the housing was secure, again, or when the housing was recovered, water was in the housing again. So kind of just a deja vu. The first experience, went on shore, got everything out, dried it off, but again, toast. So on that one, I was really discouraged because I had no idea what went wrong because I was had checked everything. So I'd contacted Aquatech and just told them, listen, I have lost all confidence in your product. I would like a refund. I explained everything. I was very friendly, but just gave him the details. And he was not the manager, so I had to talk to the manager. Manager was not in, so he advised me to send an email, which I composed an email explaining the whole circumstances. And I got to tell you, I was really surprised that, given my circumstances, they refused to give me any sort of refund. And really, the response I got was very patronizing. Is that like it was my fault, my responsibility, and they were not going to accept any claim at all. Which is very disappointing because I've owned several businesses in the past, and I just know that, you know, you really try to work with your customers. It's hard to win customers over, and if you don't treat them right, kind of one of the purposes of this video is that, you know, it's their right not to refund me, but it's my right to tell people about my experience with this product and to forewarn you that, you know, be sure, and definitely these things are not foolproof. And so after the second time, I started really playing around with these latches. And what I discovered is that, like this latch here, if you press it down, it will not become detached. I mean, you can see I'm pushing it down and it's not going. This one though, it's secure. If you just press it down lightly, it goes. And to me, that is defective product. See, and again, you don't have to press hard at all. And so what I'm thinking on the second time, I really don't know what happened the first time. I'm thinking maybe the housing hit my surfboard and it unlocked it and the water got on that way. Second time I'm guessing is that when the leash came off, it must have hit bottom, popped it up, and then once it pops, water can easily get in and you know your gear is going to be gone. And a curious thing too is that through all this, there's a really experienced surf photographer on YouTube that I've been following for since I've been getting into this. He's out of Australia, and we started exchanging some emails. And he's an Aquatech user. He's had never had a problem with them, but he said that maybe these latches are not tuned properly, and that's what I've concluded is that, again, if you're just touching that and it's coming undone from the factory, it's just not done properly. So again, I'm just amazed that Aquatech would not give me a sort of refund. But if you are going to go with this brand, be super, super careful with this stuff because obviously it can get costly. So that's the big issue. The other issue that I had that wasn't really happy with the housing about was some of these buttons back here and how they align with the camera gear. And I'm going to give you a close-up look right now. Check it out. Okay, so really the biggest problem I have with this housing is you can tell everything looks like it's properly aligned with the back and casing and the body. And these are all the buttons that allow you to access the features on the back of the Canon or the camera you're using. And I set these buttons, a couple of buttons as Aquatech recommended in their video tutorials that you can find online. And this button right here, you just push, and this will allow you to change shutter speed, ISO, aperture. And then this button up here is supposed to allow you to change between, see there, change it, but you can tell how many times I'm pushing it. So the first few times I've used this thing, I put the camera in the housing, get out in the water, try to do this, nothing's happening. And boy, is it a pain when you paddle, either you swim way out from shore to where the line is, take some shot of surfers, and you can't change your settings or whatever you're doing. They have to go back to shore and then get this properly lined up. So what I do now, and I don't know if this is just specific to me, but I'd love to hear from other Aquatech housing owners if they have the same issue. But, or if you have any other brand of camera housing, I'd love to get your thoughts. So, but what I do, I don't know why that did that. Before I do any of the latches, I push this and make sure that I will have the ability to switch. And then I close this latch up top, make sure I can still switch between the settings. And I close this latch over here, so on and so on. And see, now you can do it. But that's the solution I have found. It's kind of a pain, and now I don't know why this is doing this. Okay, but now it's working properly. So that's another tip for me is always make sure that your gear is working properly. I mean, it sounds so common sense, but me, I'm anxious, you know, I was excited to get in the water and use this and realize it's not working properly. So best advice I get is just really take your time while you're on shore to make sure everything is working properly. And also, sometimes I'm shooting like with this Laowa 12mm. It is only a manual focus lens. So again, I get excited. I want to go, the waves are, you know, a good swell. I really want to get in the water and start taking pictures. Make sure your focus is set accurately, because I just did a photo shoot the other day. And yeah, I got in the water and maybe a half hour and I realized that, damn, I forgot to set the focus properly on shore. Fortunately, some of my pictures turned out, but a lot of them were blurry due to that mistake. So that is it for now. Well, so there you have it. Lastly, I want to give a huge shout out to a State Farm Insurance Company. For whatever reason, about 3 weeks prior to using my camera housing in the water, I insured all my camera gear, and for all my camera gear, the annual premium was minimal. And once the first time I lost my camera gear, I contacted State Farm. Super easy. They didn't ask many questions at all. Just had to provide a little documentation, but I quickly got new gear, and they quickly had reimbursement checks out to me. And again, no deductible even for all this stuff, which is incredible. So I cannot give enough praise for State Farm. They're the only insurance company I ever got a quote from. So, but if you're in the US, I highly recommend you contact them. It might be worthwhile to get a quote from another insurance company, but State Farm to me has been golden. But for the second time, I mean, literally it's been about 3 weeks since the first time I made a claim to the second time I lost my camera gear. And I contacted my agent last week and I explained to him the circumstances, and it's covered, but I am just not comfortable filing a claim. I mean, again, for what they charge me for an annual premium, I'd like to keep my policy, and it's not their responsibility at all to reimburse me $7 grand. I mean, 2 cameras and lenses. Yeah, so I'm gonna be paying out of pocket since Aquatech's not reimbursing me. But lesson learned. I'm thinking now to change to Sony housing, and but I'm definitely going to, or it's not Sony housing, but Sony body and lens. But I'm definitely going to go to Salty housing. I just haven't decided on which model I want to get. So that's that. I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you found the video informative and helpful. Again, if you're going to go with Aquatech and you're considering them, see, it's just, things are loose. Just be very, very careful. And lastly, if you're in Hawaii, on Oahu, especially on Oahu, and you're looking for someone to go shoot with, whether it's snorkeling, free diving, going up the line and shooting surfers, you're welcome to contact me. I'd love to connect. Overall, I'm quite new at photography, and definitely very new at using water photography and water housing. So yeah, you're welcome to shoot me a comment, or I'll have my email address in the description of this video. But until then, I wish you well. Be safe in the water, and you take care. Aloha.